So how to approach people at events for photos. This is one of the most challenging things for new photographers. Somebody that's looking to break out of just doing candids and move into the action, interacting with people. In this video, I have a few ways that I do it. I've been shooting events for the last 13 years, and I have a few things that I notice that I constantly do, and there are a few things that I would encourage you to avoid. So first thing is set up some prompts for yourself. Now, I'm gonna share my prompts that I use, and I am a 45-year-old white guy working in Los Angeles. So that gives you some context of why they might work for me. If you look different, if you are different than me, most likely you are, and if you're also in a different part of the world, these prompts might not work for you. There's different slangs. I'm from Boston originally. I don't even know what I would say shooting an event in Boston to break the ice. So that being said, just make up some of your own, but use mine as an inspiration for your own prompts. If you walk up to somebody and you're observing the room, you're there just to capture the event, and your prompt is, you look really happy. The people are then going to be happy, and they're going to be happy, and it's going to prompt them to be happy in the photo. The next thing that you would say is, can I get a photo? I'm going to get to the reason why I say that in a minute, but you get the idea. You walk up to this group of people, 1, 2, 3, 4, it could be 5 people. You take up some space, which means you just wait for somebody to acknowledge that you're there, and usually you're standing pretty close to them, so they can't really ignore you. And then you observe the group, make your prompt, and then you just ask for a photo. It's pretty simple. One thing I like to compare it to is a server at a restaurant. So if you go to a restaurant and you're getting served by somebody, usually you're with your family, you're with your friends, the waiter comes up with an extreme amount of confidence. They're there to do a job. They're there to take your order, they're there to serve you. It's the same thing with event photography. Next time you go to a restaurant, just pay attention to how you're being treated. Look at the more memorable times of servers that come and help you, and look at the ones that you don't really like that much. So when you're observing a server, just think of that. Just try to apply that to your photography. You're walking up with an extreme confidence. You're there at the event to capture the event for whoever hired you. If you are doing it for free and you're just practicing, there's still a purpose for you to be there. There's still a reason why you're taking everybody's photo. So walk up with confidence, knowing that you are there to capture the moment, to show the essence of the party or the event that you're at. So the next prompt that I would use is, whoa, you guys look cool. Something like that. By saying you look cool, then everybody feels cool. Then they give you a cool pose or look. And then from there you can build, you can be like, okay, everybody look in different directions except for you. You look this way. So you're making it like a little bit of a game, and playing a game with these people, it makes it a little bit more of a fun interaction. And I think the more you do that, the more you approach each thing as like you're playing a game with the attendees of this event, the more memorable you're going to be, and the more likely you're going to get hired for another event. So you guys look cool. Can I get a photo? I need to capture your coolness. Think about it. If someone came up to you, acknowledged how you're making them feel, and then they're just asking to capture it, wouldn't you want to say yes? Yeah. So keep approaching. You're getting the idea, right? The prompts are just ways to break the ice. You're observing. Think about like when you go to a coffee shop and somebody's like, oh, that's a great sweater. I tip those people most of the time. I give more tip than I would if they just took my order and didn't say anything. They just like, what do you want? And then they look at the screen and then they look down. So just things to think about, ways to kind of give you some creativity within this process. Okay, so you get the idea. Those are 3 of the ones that I use. I have 5 that I'll typically use in any given event. I do build off of them depending on who the audience is or who the people that are attending the event. So the next thing I want to talk about is the second part of the approach, and that is, can I get a photo? You ask that just because you're, like I said earlier, you're wanting to capture their essence. Something that I think you should avoid, something that I avoid, I've tried this many times and I do get some no's, is would you like a photo? When you're asking, would you like, then I'm not a psychologist or anything, but it seems like when you're asking somebody, you're asking like, well, do I want a photo? I don't know. Why would I want a photo of myself at this party? And there are some people that are very confident and they like the way they look and they like being photographed. Those people are gonna say yes every time. The ones that don't say yes are the ones that are having a bad day, that don't like the way they look in photos, that they might have recently gained some weight, they might be going through a breakup. They don't wanna be photographed because you're asking them, and given the choice, then they say no. Just because you get a no doesn't mean that they might come around later on in the event, but if you're trying to avoid getting no's, this is something that I would avoid asking. Just go with, can I get a photo? And that usually gets people excited, and they want to, people like when you get inspired, and they like the fact that you're inspiring them. All right, so another avoid, and this came from my mentor. He's a party photographer, and that is, don't look at your LCD screen. Don't review the photos right in front of the group. If you do have a mirrorless camera, you do have an EVF, electronic viewfinder, you could look through and kind of hit your play button sneakily. The reason why I think you should avoid doing this is you're inviting, first of all, it's just a little bit rude looking at your screen while you're just, you're not talking, you're just looking at photos. And you're not including the group, the people that you just opened up and interacted with. If you're wanting to just then show them the back of your screen, you're inviting kind of some editing or some critique that you don't really need. Say that you're not that confident with your settings yet and your photo just isn't good, then it brings on like a pressure or an anxiety that you don't really need at this moment in your, I guess, career. What I like to do is I'll take the photos, I'll take about 3 to 5, I guess, just so, depending on how many people there are, just in case they close their eyes, give them a couple opportunities to change up their pose or whatever, or change their expression, and then I move on. Later in the event, or at some point while I'm by myself, I'll go through and I'll look at some of the photos just to see if I got the right, just to see if they're good, to see if the exposure is correct. There was one case where I was walking around and my flash the setting got adjusted. So I was overexposing all of my photos. I looked through, I saw the mistake, and then I had to approach the same group that I already did, and I just blamed it on the camera. I said, hey, my settings were off on the last photo. Do you think we could get another photo? And they totally stood in post for another photo. They already had a good interaction with me, so it wasn't a big deal that I had to go back. So I think at the beginning, just do the things that are gonna give you the most confidence, to give you the most positive experiences within shooting these people that you don't know. Eventually, if you get hired to shoot the same events for the same people, you will know almost everybody in the room. At least that's been my experience. But at first, you're just kind of doing all these icebreakers and it can get a little uncomfortable. That's why I'm sharing this with you, to give you some little tips and tricks to have the most positive experience possible.